This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
This is Donnie Abrazanskas
and Tim Savage from Turkey Hill Brewing Company.
You are listening to Shawn Rosler on the Coarse Grind Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 111, Triple Ones of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you as always this evening, host creator Shawn Rosler. How's everyone doing this morning, this evening? I'm nasally. I'm on cold medicine. I blame it on the cold medicine. That's what I do. Thank you for tuning in as always. Well, listen, I did what I could. I did everything in my power that I possibly could to stay away. But I have to admit, it drew me back in. I fell off the wagon like a moth to a flame. I find myself again circling the illumined bulb that is Bravo, waiting for the new season of Top Chef to arrive. And what do we do to stave off the pain in the meantime? No, binge drinking isn't the... Well, I mean, it could be, but anyway, we reach out to a multitude of legends I haven't yet had the opportunity of talking to maybe help soothe the void. And there's been one I've waited a long time. She's going to be all like, oh, when I say this, but I really have 2 seasons by now, I suppose, to reach out to, and to say I was thrilled when she said yes would be an understatement. On to the intro. Tonight's guest grew up in the kitchens and dining rooms of the restaurants her mother managed in Chicago, Illinois. She would help with bussing tables, running food, washing dishes, whatever was needed after homework was finished. Good for her. At her parents' insistence, she went to college before pursuing her culinary ambitions, attending Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, where she studied business and journalism. But along with catering events in college came a calling back to what she knew. After graduating magna cum laude, she started working as a line cook at a busy seafood restaurant in Orlando, and she wanted to learn all aspects of the kitchen. So she turned to pastry production at the Sandestin Resort on the Gulf of Mexico before moving to New York City. In New York, she bartended at night while working for free during the day for various chefs around the city and enrolled in classes at the Institute of Culinary Education. She was referred to the kitchen at Le Bernardin, no big deal, where she started as a commis. During her 8 years at the 3 Michelin star restaurant, she worked, see, I always try to cut it, and I always miss one there. Anyway, made her way up the ranks. You don't know who she is yet. Eventually becoming executive sous chef under Eric Repair. No big deal at all again. The list goes on, but in the interest of time and space on my page, I'll leave her to tell the rest of her story. Discovering her on Top Chef was hands down an absolute joy. And if this is your first foray to her, I'm thinking you're going to feel the same. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, tonight's guest, Top Chef Season 15 runner-up, unjustly so I might goddamn add, world-class chef and food media figure extraordinaire, Chef Adrienne Cheatham. How is it going, Chef?
Hello. I think that is like the best intro I have ever had.
I would love it if I got like royalties on intros, but I haven't gotten anything yet. But you know, I'm gonna keep trying.
You're like the best hype man ever.
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm like George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic, the guy in the diaper. That's me. I'm up front laying it down.
I was going to say Flavor Flav, but that's even better.
Oh, give me a clock. We're on. So thank you so much. You know, it's been, it really has been since the season ended. You know, for me, it's never about the number one. If you go back through the seasons, I don't know that I've had more than 1 or 2 season winners. I always like to hear from the runner-up because I think the runner-up has the cooler story and like, you know, maybe some like pent-up stress and frustration that I want to help purge. I really do. So I'm here for you, really. But again,
everybody loves an underdog. What can we say?
God, absolutely. Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I know you're busy, so we'll get right into it. Folks,
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What am I going to say? No to you? Folks new to the program, folks with terrible short-term memories like yours truly, starters, mains, and afters. We're going to talk starters, where the guest in question came from, what got them going down the road. Mains, we're going to talk about where they're at, what they're doing. And finally, afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff, but no one's been injured in 110 episodes. Jesus, that sounds weird to say. So without further ado, Chef Adrienne Cheatham, tell me about where and what you grew up eating.
Ooh, I grew up eating everything. My favorite food was, and possibly to this day still is, potatoes.
Nice.
So that was kind of my go-to. It was one of the few things I could cook by myself when my mom was at work at the restaurant and my dad was working at the Oscar Mayer plant.
Nice.
And I could put so many different things on it. We had leftover bacon, chicken, pulled pork, just random stuff. I mean, I'm a butter, salt, and pepper kind of girl.
Love it.
But,
love it.
You can do so much with a baked potato. So as a kid, that was my absolute favorite food growing up.
And you say it still carries through today?
Yeah, I'm still a huge potato fan, although I've drifted more towards Yukon Golds and sweet potatoes than the regular Idahos that I loved growing up.
Sure.
But my mother worked in restaurants, so we used to go with her to so many different places. And, if you stop by a restaurant, you're the salesperson, you're taking an order, because this is all pre-internet.
Yeah.
So she would have to go to her restaurants that were her accounts, and she would put us at a table in the non-smoking section. And, somebody would bring us a couple appetizers while the adults are talking in the other areas.
Yeah.
So we ate everything, whatever they brought us. What are we going to say? No to free food?
Absolutely. Well, listen, what am I going to say? No to a free interview with a celeb chef? Of course not. So you're not going to say no to a free food either. So that's such a cool thing to look at, though. And I want to get back to what your mom did in the industry, but it's funny, and I know I was kind of joking as we were leading up to interview time about my 3 kids, and what a time strain it can be. My oldest is absolutely culinarily inclined, and even at 12, I'm now watching his tastes mature, like you say, going from just the plain white spud to a Yukon Gold to a sweet potato, and but it's so funny that common thread is still there. What do you think it is? Is it the fact that it's just a blank canvas that still draws you to it?
To the potato?
Yeah, to the potato.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because you can make, it's so poetic in a way. You can make it into anything. It's like a blank canvas. You can turn it into a Monet. You can turn it into a fucking Klimt. You can turn it into anything you want. But even on its own, it's a beautiful work of art.
Absolutely.
It's starch. It's, it's like fluffy, just a potato with butter, salt, and pepper is still just as freaking delicious today as it was when I was 8 years old.
And listen, when you turn 21, it's vodka, so it's even better. Am I right?
There you go.
All right. So go back
Cheers.
to...
I'm having a glass of wine, but maybe I'll do that next.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, you mentioned that your mom worked in the restaurants in and about Chicago. What was it she did? What was her role?
So she held pretty much every front of the house job, from host to waiter, restaurant manager, and then she took a job working as the sales rep for Kraft.
Oh,
and
nice. Okay.
That's a commission job. So she would have to kind of hustle to get restaurants to buy food from her. And this was late 80s through late 90s in Chicago. So no matter what you wanted, you had to go through Kraft. So she had restaurants from Charlie Trotter, Rick Bayless was a client, down to the neighborhood Mexican food restaurant.
No shit. Wow. I mean, that's quite a roster. And again, now we're in the internet age. I don't know that such a monopoly would necessarily be possible. So what a good time to be her.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And I mean, she is such a badass, so she would hustle to get these people to buy food from her, but because she had worked in restaurants for so long, she knew so many people.
Yeah.
So they would start off with a small account with her, but she's like, hey, I've got 2 kids, my husband works at the Ostermeyer plant, like, I need to make some money.
Yeah.
So she hustled her ass off, and this was, you know, before you would call for a second delivery, like if you get shorted something on your delivery in the morning. So she would have to physically go to the Kraft warehouse 45 minutes outside of Chicago, pick up whatever her chef was missing, and bring it back to the restaurant for them.
No shit. Wow.
So she was on it. She, like, did anything to keep her chef happy.
Yeah.
She was like, and I'm like, I want somebody like her nowadays in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it's, you know, both convenience is such a blessing and tragedy at the same time for that very reason, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you can't have both sides of it. But, you know, the other thing is, there's a saying my wife and I have. We have an LLC. We do stuff, you know, consulting wise. And the motto goes, you can't teach hustle. And I think it's just born into you. And it seems like their chef, it might have trickled down from mom to you. I don't want to assume, but it would certainly seem that way. Go back to childhood for a minute, and we know you like the potato, but what else did you eat? Were you a picky eater growing up, or were you pretty accepting across the board?
We didn't have the luxury of being picky eaters when we were growing up. My dad is from Mississippi, so he's very, like, old school, Southern, strict, like, you don't get to tell me what you want and what you like and don't like. You eat what's on your plate.
Nice.
And you're welcome for it. You know, like, we feed you, you're welcome. So we didn't have that luxury of being picky eaters. There were some things that we absolutely hated. Like, to this day, I can't eat canned peas because he would get these, like, really nasty canned peas and bring them home that my mom would be like, do I really have to cook these? Like, my mother was like, I can get, like, I have fresh vegetables. We just sat on the back porch and shelled, like, 10 pounds of peas. Like, why are we using canned peas? Nice. You know, even if it's during the winter, like, I'd rather just use, like, something else. And he's like, no, I picked these up. Just go ahead and warm them up and put them with the chicken for dinner. She's like, okay, sweetie, you got it. Yeah. My sister and I would, like, take a forkful, take a couple chews on it, and then put it in our napkins. We'd, like, mama bird
nice
and throw them away.
Very good.
Very good. The only thing that I was picky about was, like, canned vegetables. Yeah. I don't know. That's something that I was not a fan of, but yeah, everything else, it's like, you're going to eat what's on your plate.
Well, I mean, you were definitely ahead of your time now in the age of farm to table, you know, farm to fork, like, you know, definitely that fresh mindset is on par right now. Talk to me about the favorites that you had growing up.
That's such like a staple of how we grew up, though, because like I was saying, my dad's from Mississippi. Yeah. So everything, like, Southern food is the original farm to table.
Absolutely.
It's the original organic. So when my mother and dad were getting married, his family in Mississippi, they were like, look, Jack, we don't care that you're marrying a white girl. We just care that she doesn't know how to cook Southern food. So 3 women who had never really flown before, you know, they packed up seeds, cast iron skillets, and they drove up from Mississippi and spent 3 months teaching my mother how to cook Southern food, and they planted a garden in the backyard. So we always eat vegetables from our yard. You know, she would grocery shop for a lot of stuff also, but yeah, we always, like, fresh vegetables is like a staple of how we grew up. And then going to Mississippi every spring break and summer break, it was like, it's what you do, is you go outside and pick something.
Oh my God. Like, I wish, you know, for as glad as I am most times that, like, we don't have a video feed here on the show, I wish you could see my face when you said that about drove up for 3 months with all this equipment. Like, you want to talk about what love is. That's love right there. That's acceptance right there. You know, we're going to show you how. Yeah. Like, think about the knowledge that was dropped on her in those 90 days. Like, come on.
Right?
That's fucking beautiful.
Crazy.
Wow.
They even brought her moo-moos to wear.
Yeah, nice. That's
it was
awesome.
the 70s after all.
It was fair. Talk to me, so we determined the canned peas were the no-go. I would imagine in a household like yours, there were some absolute diehard favorites that likely to this day you still miss. You still have a longing for. Can you tell me about those?
Yes. So because I love potatoes so much, and I'm not the only one, I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
So whenever we had leftover mashed potatoes, my mother would make these amazing potato bread rolls.
Oh.
And she would use the leftover mashed potatoes, like pass them through a ricer and fold them into the dough. I've still never gotten that recipe from her, and she claims to not really know it.
Oh, sure.
But
yeah,
even if I give her some cold mashed potatoes, she's like, I don't really feel like doing it. But she would make those with some, like, braised turkey legs.
Oh. What are you
doing? My God, it was
man?
like crack.
What are you doing to me? Oh, the turkey leg potato bread roll. I gotta, because, all right, so, here in Pennsylvania, we have Martin's, and they do the potato rolls. I can't imagine they're even in the same zip code.
I'm a huge Martin's fan. Don't get me wrong. I think it's like one of the most perfect rolls ever created. Mm. But there was something about these were like, they weren't just sweet. They were like white potato starchy. But there was something about them that was like so freaking delicious. Because if you made it with a ton of butter and like cream, then your rolls would be that much richer. It was just so damn good.
This is not helping any plans for a diet and workout program heading into winter. I want you to know, I'm going to hold you personally responsible for my cardiology bill. God, that sounds amazing.
I'm willing to take that. I'll take that L.
Yes. If you find that recipe out, you have my number. That needs to happen. I think it's probably then safe to say, based on what I've heard so far, that your greatest culinary influence growing up has to be Mom. Is that true?
Definitely, without a doubt.
If you could name one feature of Mom that you brought forward into you, what would it be? Asking the hard questions here, Chef.
You really do. It has to do with like a philosophy of life that can be applied to cooking. But it's like so, okay, this is going to sound weird, but my grandmother on my mom's side was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And she used to say, she had 12 kids. So I'm sorry, you reserve the right to be crazy if you have 12 kids.
That's not crazy at that point. That's called justified.
Yeah, she just pretty much was like, I'm done. I'm good. You guys are grown. I'm tapping out.
Good
so
for her.
She used to, like, sit on the porch and, the kids would come around. They're screaming and fighting. And she would just say, don't care, don't care. And so my mom would always joke about that when I was growing up. Like, do you remember Grandma saying, like, don't care, don't care? So that was kind of our motto. Like, there's never too much stress that's going on that it should affect you to that level. So even in the kitchen, when people are screaming and a dish is getting thrown or somebody's freaking out, I'd be like, don't care. It's like I care about the food, I care about the craft, I care about what's going on. But you have to separate the stress from all that or else you can't function.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's funny because there was a character trait I was going to bring up later in the show, but I'll bring it up now. You are literally one of the most stoic figures I've seen on 16 seasons of this show. And goddamn if that doesn't make a world of sense now to hear you say that.
Yeah, it's because I come from a line of crazy people where I've seen so much shit that I'm like, leather, it's just what you do, because especially in kitchens, like you've seen how the environment is, that if the chef or sous chef, executive chef, if anybody at that top level who people are looking to for guidance in stressful situations, if you lose your shit, the whole shit is going to sink.
God,
so you have to always be calm, collected. You have to keep on your guard or else everybody else would be like, oh, if she's freaking out, we're doomed.
You are
like
so
service
right.
is going to come to a standstill.
God damn, you are spot on. Not that I expected you wouldn't be, but that's a heavy drop of knowledge. Like, God, if we could all embrace that, you know, I think we'd be a better society. Side note, if you're not making a t-shirt out of that, you need to be. Don't care, don't care. I'd buy it. I know that. So let that percolate. Let that percolate.
You know, that and when my mom was cooking, she kind of came from like the Julia Child school of cooking, where she would like put 2 splashes of beer in the chicken she was roasting and then drink the rest of the can.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, she knew how to party.
I love it. God, I love it. I love it. So, you know, here you are. You come up surrounded by this culinary love and, you know, in the best humanly possible way. And I think we've already kind of alluded to, you know, why you went to food as profession. I mean, you know, you're surrounded by it. Was there a moment when you were catering maybe that the switch flipped for you? Or was it pretty much just slow boiling the whole time and you just knew that's what you were going back to?
Going back to restaurants?
Yes, going back to the restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I pretty much knew the whole time, but, you know, my dad being old school and, you know, black man from the South, he was like, I didn't fight for civil rights for you to go flip burgers.
Amen.
And I was like,
Amen.
well, Dad, I want to go to a Michelin restaurant. He's like, so you want to flip nice burgers? I don't get it, but that's not what I worked for. And, you know, it was, my mother took a more logical approach because she saw a lot of her friends burn out in restaurants.
Yeah.
So catering was something that I did during college because they wouldn't support me going to a 4-year culinary after high school.
Sure.
So they said if you go to regular college, get a degree first, have something to fall back on, still want to go to culinary school, we won't support you financially, but you'll have our moral support. So I went to college, got my degree, and then when they knew that I was still going to go into cooking, you know, they were on board. They were like, fine, do what you want to do. At least you'll have options now.
Yeah.
And when I was in college, I couldn't work in a restaurant because I was taking 16, 18 hours a semester. So catering was easier. And I didn't do savory catering. In college, I did dessert catering because then I could outsource contracts from established catering companies without having to work all the time.
Nice.
I could pick and choose. Oh, you have an event coming up. Do you have a pastry chef? No. So why don't I do your desserts for this event? And this person, the same thing. So it gave me more flexibility.
Look at you. Look at you. You know that, and there's that business background. Because I mean, I think that's a huge lacking in a lot of folks. Is that, you know, they go into this, they love the food, they love the art, they love the craft. God bless them. God love them. I think there's got to be a certain business acumen that comes along for the ride.
There really does. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can be an amazing artist and create great food, but you have to know how to be profitable. You also have to know your limitations as a person. I knew that, I couldn't roast meat for 280 people out of my small college apartment, but I could bake 400 tart shells. So, you know, it's you have to be realistic with yourself. Mm-hmm. And, you know, my parents they've never been slackers when it comes to keeping us in check about ourselves. So I was always very honest with myself about what I was capable of and what I could be profitable doing.
Nice. God, and just having the parents that involved too, you know, there's this fine line, I'm sure, that people tend to toe with regards to, quote, helicopter parenting. Oh, well, they're watching everything I do. But you know what, though? You should have a say. You should offer that say in. And it sounds like they were just enough to keep your ship in the right direction.
They really were. I mean, we had no money. We were, super broke. We were just, you know, living check to check. Our lights got cut off a couple times when we were younger after my parents got divorced. And, you know, you go down to a one income household. You know, it's hard because neither of them were making a ton of money, but then they split up and they're each kind of on their own, but they still have 2 kids to raise. So they were just realistic with themselves that they still had a family, even though they were apart.
Yeah.
And they were realistic with us. Like, you have to work. We can't support you. If you get arrested, we can't bail you out. So don't do shit that'll get you arrested.
God damn. So smart.
You know, it was
so smart.
They were very honest about everything. Everything. Man. They held no punches. If we wanted to talk about anything, they were like, you want to know the good, the bad, the ugly, and the honest? Let's go.
You're going to get the whole thing, the whole package.
I know. I wish I appreciated them when I was younger. Not like they passed away. Luckily, they're still with me.
Right.
But, you know, you're a kid. You're like, oh, my God, my parents, they don't know shit. It's a totally different day and age. One day you wake up and you're like, wow, my parents were right about everything.
Yeah. No, well, listen, you know, I know we were saying about, you know, you babysitting one nephew, I think it was, and, you know, me having 3 kids. God damn, it's so funny the moments that you step back now, definitely, because basically I have 3 walking mirrors of my own mortality. Well, you know, surrounding me at all times. It's like, oh shit, I am aging. You know, but when you hear the things come out of your mouth that do, you're like, oh, I know where I heard that before. And you realize it was from your parents. You know it. So you watch what you do, you watch how you act, you watch what you say. It's all going to come full circle. Anyway, that's for a whole other family-based podcast. I'm going to spin off of this, and it's going to be featured Chef Adrienne Cheatham and Shawn Rosler, the Coarse Grind Family Issues Podcast. There you go.
Right.
It'll be just like that.
1 with 3 kids, 1 with 0.
There you go. So let's fast forward. So we've clearly blown the dust off the history books, off of, you know, your background. Let's talk about where you're at now. First of all, let everybody know, you know, what are you doing these days? Talk to us.
So now I have a pop-up series that I started literally the weekend after the finale of Top Chef aired. I started my pop-up series, and I also got married the following weekend after that, and then did another dinner for 160 the weekend after that. So it was kind of nonstop.
Yeah,
but,
it seems a little bit.
You know, you have to... You know, it was like a honeymoon. Guess what, baby? We're going to go do a dinner at Tyler's restaurant in Connecticut with Chris and Fatima, and we're all going to go kick it for the weekend.
Nice.
Honeymoon, yay. But by the way, I have to work the whole time. But the pop-up has been great, and I started it right after Top Chef just because I was too busy working to start it before, so I had this nice little break while the show between filming and then the airing of it, where I could kind of organize, get the contract set with the host restaurants and get everything lined up.
Nice. So
that as soon as the show finished airing, I could just kind of like knock them out once a month.
Nice. Yeah, and you know, that's not to say it's a trend, but it seems like with your season, these collab pop-ups really kind of hit hard. Is that safe to say? Like, it seems like there were a lot of you guys, and again, not to be a fanboy, but I'm going to be a fanboy. The part that I love so much about the show is that you folks are all as advertised, like conjunto. You're in the pocket together, and when the season ends, you don't stop that in the pocket stuff. We won't get it, you know, too deep down the Fatima hallway. You know, we know and we acknowledge what a beautiful force she was and how everybody came together. I mean, that's awesome. But, like, you were just together, and it seems like you were all literally friends, like, so quickly. You know, talk to me a bit about the trend that are these, like, collaborative pop-ups. How do you guys come upon them? How do you determine what to do?
It's usually based on who's traveling or who can. If somebody has a restaurant and they want to host people to kind of, you know, get like a little fun event for their regular clients to come to, it's like, oh, well, guess what? You come to my restaurant a couple times a month here and there, but I bring fun chefs to do cool events to kind of change it up. So nice. There are enough of us that have restaurants that can host the others that don't. And that's kind of like the camaraderie of it, because not everybody wants to open a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to have that restaurant lifestyle right now. I was in it for 14 years. in restaurants, and I've really enjoyed being out of it for a couple years. I gained some weight, which is awesome because I was like a crackhead skinny before. And, it's like, I was like, I'm 5'4". I was down to like 98 pounds. That's not healthy.
No.
Like working in restaurants, just like super skinny, not healthy, not sleeping, not eating right, because I didn't know how to balance. So being out of a restaurant for a couple years, I've gotten perspective so that when I go back, I'll know how to balance it. And in the meantime, I can keep myself busy with the pop-ups. I can go to my friends' restaurants and they'll host a collab dinner. You know, it's so much fun because it gives us all flexibility where the people in restaurants can do out of the ordinary stuff and the people who don't have restaurants can be back in it.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds so cool. And again, you know, it was just this trend that I noticed just because, again, you know, I really started to dig deep with 15 because, I mean, you were all just amazing forces to be reckoned with. And,
there were some really cool ass people that season.
Dude,
I've never been around a group of people besides like a restaurant I worked in for a couple years where there was just this incredible camaraderie and cool ass people.
Yeah.
This was the first time where you're really around like-minded people who all work hard, care about what they do. It's like, where will you ever be in that environment?
Yeah.
With so many people that may not be family and we might be incredibly different, like when you look at all of us, but we have so much in common.
Absolutely. Absolutely, hands down. You know, and I'm just kind of looking back over the list and realizing, all right, I did hit a strong 50% of the season. You know, Laura Cole, sweet Laura Cole will text me at random from Alaska, like out of freaking nowhere. And it'll just be like, you're a rock star. I believe in you. Like random inspirational shit. And I'm like, oh my God, you're the best.
Awesome.
Thank you.
She was my roommate at first.
Oh, nice. Okay. And then, Sasto, funny story. We go up to Maine and we run, my middle kid befriends this young Italian kid and they're staying in this house down from ours. And I end up having to go down to the house to get my kid. And I just start talking with the family and there's all these, you know, grandpas and grandmas and everything. And I finally meet the kid's dad and the kid's dad's like, I make these. These are beautiful. You want to try some? And I'm like, yeah, I'll try some. And I start eating them. And I don't know if I'm getting a bullet in the back of my head or not at this point. And he goes, you know, I wish I just knew where I could market them. I said, oh, what are they? They're Toretti, or something like that. And I'm like, I think I know a guy because I just interviewed Joe. And so
nice.
I texted him a picture. I'm like, dude, do you know what these are? And are you interested in blah, 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 blah? Boom, sends me this big text back. No, we're good. I wouldn't know how to market them, but tell them they look great. Like, just this sweet message. And I'm like, would you people stop being so awesome? So again, to your end, it's just like everybody really seemed to connect. And it's so cool to hear that with this pop-up trend now, you know, it's about the folks that have, the folks that don't, and the fact that you want to keep working together. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But, you know, in the meantime, so I'll also be incredibly honest with you. This is the dirty secret that a lot of people don't like to talk about and let people know what's really going on. So bills don't pay themselves.
Right.
And because the pop-ups might be once a month or once a quarter, depending on the schedule, you still have to pay the bills and have a job in the meantime. So I do private work as well.
Oh,
And that's something that for years in restaurants, I was like, no, I never do private work. But here I am with a private client.
Yeah. I mean, does that necessarily come with a stigma in the industry or no?
I feel like it did when I was in restaurants and people would kind of retire, quote unquote, from restaurants and they would do private work to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But, you know, you always kind of looked at them like, oh, you can't hack it in a restaurant. So that's why you're doing private work.
Ah.
And then you get a little older and you're like, no, it had nothing to do with hacking it.
All right. So your eyes kind of come open. It's not necessarily a truth. It's kind of a misconception of youth.
It is. It really, really is.
Okay.
And it was after Top Chef that it was actually Chef Repair who got in touch with me and said, hey, I have a longtime client from Le Bernardin whose private chef is leaving. Would you be interested in doing a tasting? I was like, Chef, no. Like, if I go back, it's going to be to a restaurant. It's not going to be to do private work. And Chef Repair was like, Adrienne, you're crazy. It's good money. You're off on weekends. You're home by 9, 10 o'clock at night. You know, do it for a year or two and just, you know, do your pop-ups and everything else on the side. And I was like, okay, I'll do a tasting, but, you know, we'll see where it goes. I'll probably do 1 year.
Yeah.
So I've been working with this one private client now for a little over a year, and it's been awesome.
See, all right, here we go. Cut this off as a soundbite. You're going to want to save this. See, guys, Eric Repair knows what he's talking about. There you go. All right? Jesus Christ.
He does. If we thought he didn't before, he really does.
I love the fact that, like, well, you know, Chef Repair, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Chef whom? Oh, man.
And again, like, he's another, like, genuine person.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine it any other way. You know, we just did our 100th live show as a fundraiser for the local food cupboard. And thank you very much on that. And actually, one of my co-hosts was Beth Aretsky, Grill Bitch from Kitchen Confidential. And
oh, nice.
You know, it was funny because, you know, she and Chef Michael Pardis from the CIA Hyde Park, you know, they came down. They were only supposed to, like, stay overnight. They ended up staying the weekend, and just we blew it out. It was crazy. And, like, every once in a while, Pardis or Beth would both be like, well, when Eric, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right, could you stop that shit? You know, I've gotten used to the whole, when you mention Tony, I know it's Bourdain. I'm cool with that. I've kind of gotten past it. But now it's like, oh, when Jose and Eric, and I'm like, you know what, guys? Come on. Cut me some fucking slack here. Cool.
Yeah, I will never call him Eric. We're not that cool. Like, to me, he's still like Chef or Chef Repair.
Yep.
You know, no matter how many other chefs I've worked for.
Yep.
He's still like Chef.
No.
So, I will never refer to him as Eric. I'm not that cool.
No, man. Pardis, I actually ended up cooking an event with them at Hudson Valley Brewing, and you know, I was head down the whole time, and Pardis was running the show, and everything was yes chef, no chef, sorry chef, you know, and out the door. And he came for the 100th, and he comes in, I shake his hand, I said, nice to see you, chef. He goes, God damn it, would you stop? And, like, I had to consciously say to myself, like, look, he's not going to chew your ass out. Just call him Michael or Pardis or whatever. And we got there. But, yeah, like you said, you know, you're not that cool. You're not that cool.
Right. It takes a while to get over that mental block.
Oh, totally. So, you know, here you are with all these wonderful name-dropping opportunities and all these cool scenarios that you're working in. And obviously you're making just ingenious, innovative, and beautiful cuisine, left, right, and sideways. You know, talk to me about where you pull that from. I mean, is it your time at Le Bernardin with Chef Repair? You know, is it your family growing up? Where do you pull the inspiration from to continue to be the fresh you that is you these days?
So it's so weird to hear you say that, because that is the exact opposite of what I initially thought I was going to be doing in the industry. When I first went fully in on restaurants, I wanted to be the behind-the-scenes person. So there's always, like, a Chef Repair, a Jose Andres, there are all these chefs that you see, but behind them is always a chef de cuisine or exec chef or corporate chef who's been with them for 20 years, who holds it down on a day-to-day basis with the operation. Nice. That is what I wanted to be. I wanted to say, like, you know what, Chef Repair, you do all that cool stuff and you're Chef Repair, but I wanted to be the one running the Le Bernardin kitchen on a day-to-day basis. There were two men ahead of me who had been with Chef Repair for 26 and 28 years. So I would never get to that level, so, you know, under him, but I wanted to be like them.
Got it.
That was what I wanted. So I was just kind of, working hard, keeping my head down, we chef, and just working hard to execute his vision. And there was a point where they wanted sous chefs to be more active with putting dishes on the menu and bringing ideas up. And I was used to Chef Repair saying, I want a dish that incorporates this Peruvian ingredient, or, this thing that's like kind of Nikkei cuisine from like the Peruvian Japanese influence, or something from this country. It's like he would bring us ingredients from his travels and pictures and whatever samples he could bring back of dishes he had. And he would say, hey guys, I really want us to develop a dish with this flavor profile of this country, of this area that I visited. And I was so used to having that directive that that was kind of what I was used to doing, not creating on my own, but using his kind of triggers to develop a cuisine or a dish through his lens.
Got it.
And it was probably working for Marcus afterwards that Marcus had so much going on with TV shows and restaurants all over that he's like, if you want to put a dish on the menu, go ahead. And I'm like, wait, we don't have to go through 2-3 months of testing and tasting it and all this. He's like, nope, just cost it out and let me try it, run it as a special, see how it's received, and you're good to go.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here. I'm going to jump in here real quick for the listeners. Here she is being goddamn humble again. When she says Marcus, I'd like to explain to you all who she's referring to as Chef Marcus Samuelson, recent James Beard Award winner, correct? like recent James Beard?
Chef Marcus.
Multiple time James Beard, no?
He's won so many James Beard Awards, it's crazy.
Okay, so folks listening at home, this is why I'm so outclassed on my own show. Go ahead, keep going.
Not even. It's please.
No, so so that was clearly a switch in platform for you to be able to just move forward with your own creativity.
Yes, very much. And Marcus was, he would kind of get out of the way in that regard. He's like, look, I trust you. You worked for Eric Repair for this number of years. Like, I trust that you know what you're doing, so do it.
He totally seems that way, too.
Yeah, very much. He wants to try it. He wants you to run it as a special, make sure it's costed out, make sure the dish makes sense. But he was kind of like, just go for it.
Nice.
And, if you fall on your face and the dish sucks, that's on you. But in the meantime, just go for it. And, that was so different. And so working with Chef Repair, I got to see so many different cultures, and I really got to see how to distill an ingredient or an idea and hone it into like a concise, clear dish. And then working with Marcus, I got to see like how to take influence from so many places and, just create something that's unexpected from it. It's like seeing the flip of the same coin. The two sides of one coin is the saying, I guess.
Yep.
So, it was a really cool experience, but two totally different perspectives on the same thing. And then I was like, I need to step away. Maybe instead of executing somebody else's vision, I actually do have a perspective of my own.
That's awesome.
And that was when I started kind of cooking my own food, and it was kind of like a warm-up. It took a while. And it's just been like amazing ever since then.
So now that you've found this middle road, this middle way between the two, and I mean, talk about a beautiful balancing of paths to experience. I mean, listen, first of all, I don't know that there's a culinary student on God's green earth that wouldn't lop off one of their fingers or toes to be under the tutelage that you received. Like, let's throw that right out. But to receive both ends of that spectrum and to have that motivation, I guess, that focused motivation of both, self-belief, self-trust, and yet test it out, kick the tires. That's got, well, no, I can't say that's got to have made you, a road-tested chef. I watched you, And again, I think that plays to the calm, you have. It's not just the don't care. It's the look, here's what I know. And I know a lot of shit. So let's go. Like, without even having to say it, though. That's the beautiful part. Don't care.
Yeah. It's like, don't care is kind of like when people are freaking out and they're like, chef, the oven blew out, or this or that. You're like, there's a solution.
Yeah.
So, like, why are you freaking out?
Yeah.
There's literally a night at Le Bernardin that somebody in the building tripped the wrong switch somehow, and it turned off all the gas to Le Bernardin.
Oh, my
for
God.
4 hours.
Oh, my God.
I shit you not. Going into service.
Oh,
so
no.
Imagine, however, you have 6 ovens, 3 on the entree line, 3 on the hot apps line, I don't know, 24 burners, grills, flat tops, all powered by gas, and none of them are working. So, it's like, what are you going to lose your shit? No, you still have reservations, you still have guests coming in, you have to figure it out. There is literally, and I've been in some really bad situations in restaurants, there has never been a situation, thank God, that there is not a solution to. So, it's like, don't care. Like, whatever the problem that you're bringing me, give me 30 seconds and I'll find a solution.
Let that shit go. Oh, my God. So what did you end up doing? Don't leave us hanging, Jesus Christ.
So we went down to the catering storage, not catering, but like, the off-site event storage. Yeah. Which is down in the basement. Literally, me and another sous chef, like, booked it down there, grabbed every butane burner, grabbed every canister of butane, and we set up, instead of a station having 4 burners, we set up 2 burners per station, instead of the big gas, regular ovens that you have on your station. We grabbed convection ovens, like countertop convection ovens. And that was how we rolled. Don't get me wrong, the chef de cuisine and exec chef were like calling the building to get that fixed, but we had to find the solutions in the meantime.
You had to keep it moving.
So we found every induction, just everything we could find, like tabletop cooking, tabletop fryers, like everything we could do to make service get started before the gas got turned on. And then within, I don't know, maybe the first 12 tables, the gas finally got turned back on. We heated the ovens up, and we were good to go. It was seamless, too.
I'm going to go back and repeat what I said. You can't teach hustle. So you have 2 choices in that situation. And, I do, listen, I don't come from a culinary background at all. I don't know if I have you under some kind of misconception. I don't at all. I just happen to like it, and I happen to be okay at it when I dip into it. I come from an e-learning development background, but, there are moments where it's like...
I think if you devoted this much time to it, you kind of know what you're talking about.
Please don't inflate my ego anymore. My wife will probably have words with you. Anyway, with that said, I think regardless of your industry, just being able to approach a problem like that is like platinum status. It ain't even gold status. That's platinum stuff right there. Because there are no problems. My wife originally was a nurse, and she would always, whenever I brought up issues with IT or anything like that, she would simply calmly pose to me, so is anyone dying? I'd be like, well, no one's dying, blah, blah, blah. She goes, then it's not an emergency. And that's where it was left.
Your wife comes from the group of OGs of that shit.
Yeah, she should have the Flavor Flav watch or clock around her neck. She should have that on.
Yeah, people like that, they know how to put things in perspective. At the end of the day, is what you're doing life-threatening?
Yep.
No. Like, at the end of the day, we're cooking food. But at the same time, people are paying good money for it. For some people, this is a special occasion where they wouldn't spend this much money to come and eat. Yeah. So you really don't want to slack off at any point.
Yeah, you're not busting out the microwaves in Le Bernardin at that point. You're going to make it work.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
good
awesome.
times.
Yeah,
good
I
times.
bet.
If you can make it through that, you can make it through anything.
You can make it through anything. So, take me back to that. And now, you have this mindset now that, you can create on your own. You didn't necessarily want to, but you can. There's got to be a best thing you've ever come up with. and a worse thing you've ever come up with. I'm going to leave you to pick the order in which you present them. It's up to you. Totally up to you. Do you want to eat your vegetables first and have your dessert, or do you want to eat your dessert first and eat your vegetables? Your call, and it's not
Good
canned
question.
peas. No canned peas here. So your call. Talk to me about best worst.
Okay, so we'll start best and go worst. And I'm just saying best because it's not necessarily the most creative dish or the most innovative. It was pretty cool, don't get me wrong, but it was just the fact of how I nailed it on the first try, which was dope.
Nice.
So to me, it was like my most memorable experience putting a dish on a menu. And it was the first dish. I'd had components of dishes like a sauce or a protein or a garnish or, on the menu at Le Bernardin. But the first full dish, beginning to end, that was all mine, that I had tested out in the kitchen, don't get me wrong, but the first time that I brought Chef Repair to taste and tweak before it goes to the menu, he was like, I have nothing to say. This is ready to go.
I have nothing to say.
He put he put a little pinch of Espelette pepper on top and was like, okay, we're good. And it was the most edifying experience of my culinary career.
Nice.
It was a striped bass tartare, and the sauce was a mango emulsion that you finish with champagne. So you just at the start of every service, I would have to ask one of the sommeliers for a bottle of champagne. I was like, hey, where's my champagne for service?
Nice.
So it was just an all-around awesome experience because every day in the kitchen, they would pop a bottle of champagne for the kitchen.
That's awesome.
For that sauce. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? Even when the dish went off the menu, you're like, all right, where's my bottle of champagne?
Pretty much, yeah.
But Chef, the dish is off the menu. I don't give a shit.
I don't care. Where's my champagne? And one of the coolest things was that Maggie LeCose, who's the original owner of Le Bernardin, Chef Repair's partner. So Miss LeCose has a house on a quiet private island somewhere, and once a year her chef will come to Le Bernardin to learn her favorite dishes so that she can recreate them back on her vacation place.
Yeah.
And that was the first dish she wanted her chef to learn.
No.
I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
My dish? Oh my God.
Look at you.
That was oh my God, to have Erica Pear and Maggie LeCose give their stamp of approval on it was to this day, that's one of the best experiences.
God damn. I mean, how do you top that? Well, I'm glad we boat you up as far as we have now. Because now we're going to let you back down.
Right.
Biggest bomb. Let's go.
Like my mom and dad. Jesus. Bring it back to reality, bitch.
Come on. We got a schedule here.
So it was more the execution. It was a biscuits and gravy dish I was doing. And it had a rectangular cut of biscuit, sausage gravy that had been strained out, fried oysters with lardo and caviar. But I was executing it for a dinner that was done banquet style. So I'm looking at the dishes going out, and I was like, oh my God, the fucking gravy is cold. Oh my God, it was just it was a horrific experience. I was like, do I have to serve it now?
Oh, no.
The first few tables got hot food, but nobody likes cool gravy. I'm sorry.
No.
Nobody likes that. And I really should have reconsidered a dish that would have been executed better.
Well, hindsight's always 20/20, so not a lot you can do. But who was that under, by the way? I have to know.
I can't.
No! Come on. All right.
Because it was at an event. It wasn't at a restaurant.
Oh,
it was at a separate event.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
No.
So luckily none of my chefs got the blame for that shit. That was all on me.
Damn. I love it. I love it. It's like the best, most fucked up soap opera ever. This show. I love just hearing it because it's like your heart gets torn back and forth. I want to know, but I don't want to know. I hope she was okay, but I hope nobody else got chewed on. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So classic.
I feel like Mortal Kombat where the dude just like punched my chest and ripped my heart out just thinking about it. Thanks, Shawn.
That's that would be Kano from Mortal Kombat 1 that pulled the heart out of the chest
Get
and held
over
it in
here.
there. Yes. Oh my God. Yep. We need to hang out, clearly.
Yep.
We've covered you pretty much history to present. We've got to take an eye towards what's next for you. And I mean, like, you're one of the cases where it's like you're so phenomenal at what you do and you're so inspired from the sources you come from. Why change anything? But I have to imagine, you've got stuff you're looking towards. Talk to me about your next 5 years. What do they bring?
Well, a lot. I got married about a year and a half ago, which has been fucking awesome. I didn't know married life was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like the best thing ever. So I thoroughly want to capitalize on this. I want to enjoy the hell out of it. And then, roll the dice in a couple years and look at opening a restaurant. Working on a cookbook, so starting to pitch that, and hopefully the cookbook will get picked up, and that will kind of coincide with the opening of a restaurant around, the same 6 months to 8 month period. And opening a restaurant was something that I was kind of saying, no, I don't really want to do, but taking some time and thought about it, and it is something that I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's my next project.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because I'm sure, maybe you feel like you've had enough time back from it that, maybe you want to foray back into it.
Yes. Yeah, the time off has been amazing. Literally, you're going 7 days a week, 6 days a week, for 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
And you don't know anything different. So to have 2 years off where I can make some decent money, pay my bills, pay off whatever credit card debt I had from, my line cook days.
Yeah.
It's been thoroughly amazing. And I still have the creative outlet of the pop-up series. And then to be able to say, you know what? I do still want to do a restaurant.
That's awesome.
And I do still have a perspective and dishes that I want to create and service that I want to provide for people. That's kind of like the ultimate thing there is I get to create this experience for guests once in a while at the pop-up series.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to bring people to that environment on a regular basis whenever they kind of want that outlet and want to come and have that food and have that hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I want to do.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
At the end of the day, we're in hospitality.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, if you're feeling that 7 day burn, there's no way you can sustain that. Taking that time back, taking that self-time, and really applying that is key. I was actually just interviewed on another show this morning. That's not a cheap plug. I'm just mentioning that fact. I'm not even going to name the show. But I was.
You should, though, so I can see what it is.
It's the Mindcast, MYNDcast podcast. And it's a colleague of mine from e-learning, but we're talking about inspiration and how we start projects, and the podcast was one of them. And, one of the questions he posed to me that I didn't think about was like, what's your why? What was the overall mission of the show? And there were three things. There was the humanitarian aspect, putting money in the food cupboards coffer, that kind of thing. It was the education factor, showing people like, hey, look, this isn't really that hard. You can make good food and you can do it, relatively well. But the third one that I hadn't realized before today, and it's funny, I'm talking to you and you're saying that about 7 days, was acceptance. Acceptance of the culinary Epicurean pursuits as, not only credible, but a lofty aspiration. And what I referenced was that, these people are 12 hours a day, 6 days a week if they're lucky, if not 7. And they are putting in front of you the stuff that you wax and wane and go, oh, about there's an artistry and a science to what they're doing. It's time we move this to the forefront and put maybe the English majors and such to the back of the line. Like, this is what matters. So for me, that I found out, like, that's kind of why I've been pushing this forward. So there you go.
And that's amazing, and we appreciate you for doing that, because it is something that we're passionate about. And you start with the science of why things work, and then you can move to how to make it delicious, because you know how it works.
Yeah.
And it is such a craft, and it's such a science and an art. So thank you for, letting us wax poetic about it.
It's a cause near and dear to my heart and my gut and my sagging ass and my bulging pants. So anyway, food just goes in, and there's where it's at. So, again, obviously, married life, enjoy it. My wife and I just celebrated 16 years.
Oh, congratulations. You got all kind of milestones.
Yeah, I know, right? It truly is the best thing, though. I won't even go sarcastic on that. And, the restaurant, the cookbook, I'm sure it's going to be nothing but amazing. And when that time comes, I want my phone to ring and we can do this whole song and dance again. And we could talk about.
I would love that.
We can talk about that. So let's hit afters real quick.
In Hartland, though, you've got to come up here.
Oh, guaranteed. I'll be on my way up, no question. Before
the wife and the kids. We'll even do a kids menu for it.
Oh, man. I'll tell you what, though. To be fair, you know what? Both of my older kids, I don't know that the 6-year-old, older kids went down. There was a wonderful, higher end restaurant for the area here in town, Seasons on Main. My dear friend Gary owned it. And my oldest had a trio of game sausage. It was boar, rabbit, and something else. And the middle kiddo it wasn't Dover sole. It was something like that. But like they don't shy away from it. And kind of like your dad, we don't give them the option to. It's like, look, this is what's on the table. You don't like it, stay skinny. If you want to eat, it's here for you. So absolutely, right. I hands down will take you up on that. There's no question there. Before we get rolling out of here, let's touch on afters real quick. Couple irreverent questions, if you will. No one's been injured, like I said, in 110 episodes. I don't foresee it happening here. I'm standing in your kitchen. Your kitchen. You can pick professionally or at home. What music do I hear?
It depends on what I'm cooking.
Okay.
But, okay, to be honest, I have a mix.
Here's the hard questions again.
I have a kitchen mix.
Ooh, I like that.
Because I usually cook to silence. I usually don't like to have music playing in a restaurant kitchen. But if I'm cooking at home, I have a playlist that has some dance hall reggae, so upbeat reggae.
Nice.
And it has some trap music, because I like my ignorant ass trap music.
Nice.
And then it also goes into like some Lenny Kravitz and GNR, because I'm a big Guns N' Roses fan.
Oh my God, yes.
Is one of my favorites. So I'm a huge guitar fan. So it'll go from reggae and trap music, and then it'll go straight guitar.
Oh my God.
So any band that has like a great guitarist, it could be White Stripes, it could be Prince, it could be anything that has like, Santana is one of my favorite guitarists of all time.
Absolutely.
Guitar artist. So it could be Black Magic Woman, it could be anything, as long as it's like a huge guitar solo.
Oh my God.
So once we get like the upbeat trap and reggae out of the way, then it's straight guitar.
Man, I'm going to tell you something. You and the husband have an open invite down to here, and we can start blasting that shit in the kitchen and having a good time with it. That's awesome. That's so awesome. All right. Question number 2. And just as an aside, Greta, if you're listening, I'm sorry, Greta's my wife. Greta, if you're listening, it's not weird that I like to cook in silence. You should know that. There. Adrienne just said it's okay to cook in silence, okay?
Yes.
Because I literally do.
That is my first playlist.
I will walk into the kitchen and be like, Alexa, stop music. And I'll be down, just, and she'll come up, Alexa, play Steely Dan. And I'm like, oh, fuck me. All right. I'll just go with it. Whatever. Question number 2, you're going to be stranded on a deserted island, okay? You're only allowed to take 3 foods or food-type items with you. What would they be and why? Inexhaustible supplies, by the way. They don't exhaust. They magically renew. So with that in mind.
Shit, wine.
They'll love that. Yes. Yes, girl.
You can't do anything without that.
Damn
so
straight.
wine is first and foremost. Does that count as food or non-food?
It's made of grapes. I don't give a fuck. Whatever.
It can go for either category.
Exactly.
So
it's dessert. It's a salad. It's, it's whatever you want.
Yeah, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's how I used to feel about beer, by the way. I would have beer for dinner.
Okay.
Butter.
Oh my God, that's
wine,
so smart.
Butter. I'm assuming I can plant things on this island.
You can plant. Yeah, you can plant. You can catch fish.
Okay. So I'm assuming there's some kind of wild onion on the island, so I won't worry about bringing that.
Mm-hmm.
But butter, wine, holy shit. I mean, I don't need much. Butter, wine, a sharp knife. I can grab a stone to sharpen it with on the beach. I can dry salt water in the sun to get salt. So, I don't know. What else do I need besides beer, wine, butter? Can I get a chicken?
You can get a
Because that
chicken.
would be an
Yeah.
inexhaustible chicken.
There you go.
A chicken that I can never run out.
I can just see it now. I can, honest to God, just see it now. This fall on Bravo, the makers of Survivor and Top Chef come together to create Top Chef Survivor. The brainchild of Shawn Rosler and the Coarse Grind Podcast.
Yes.
I don't
That
know.
would be a great show.
I think it could work. I think it might work. Those are awesome.
Okay, so I would need a chicken, a pig, and a cow. I would need all 3.
Oh boy, now you're getting meaty.
Because I would
I don't
need
know.
heavy cream.
Well, could there be wild boar on the island if it's a tropical island?
Yeah, but I
It's
need
not
like
the same, I know.
a Berkshire pig.
All right.
Wild boar, that could work. It's a little redder, a little gamier, but, that could work.
Okay.
And as long as I have a constant supply of butter, then I guess I don't need a cow.
There you go.
I can get chicken and fish. Yeah, so I'll be okay.
All
I
right.
don't need much.
There you go. Wine, butter, chicken. Fantastic. I'll take it. Sounds like an old, funk band from the 90s.
Cornmeal.
Oh, well, now if corn's growing, you could dry it and grind it in your little stone vessels.
You're right.
By the time
And
you
then I
make
can
all
make
these
my own
implements.
Right.
Nice.
I'm all good. Just
yeah,
put me on an island. I'll figure it out.
She'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. Don't care. So, taking a page from Melanie Denea. Now, you're up in New York. I imagine you might have heard of Melanie Denea, My Last Supper, before?
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome. See, this is where I hit my stride, and people know what I'm talking about. So, I picked up My Last Supper probably, I want to say 2009, from a used bookstore in Philly, and it blew my mind. And then I found out there was a sequel to it, The Next Course, with Marco Pierre White on the cover, which he's covering his face with a big French round, which he probably should cover his face. Sexist asshole that he is. Moving on. So in reading Melanie's books, that's kind of where I got the format for the show, the kind of layout, the structured questions, standard issue across 50 guests. So I'm going to ask you the question that I understand is a late night game in the chef circle. Your ticket's getting punched tomorrow. What is your last meal?
Ooh. For fuck's sake.
Meal, drinks, who's going to be there, whatever you want to talk about.
So if it could be a whole night,
Mm-hmm.
because I would need several hours.
You're not going to need sleep. Sleep's coming.
I'm going in. So I would start with, I would do like a heavy brunch of fried chicken and biscuits and gravy. There was a place in New York called the Pink Teacup that used to be downtown back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have done the Pink Teacup. Nowadays, I would probably go to Melba's or another place in Harlem and do classic soul food, I would just go in on the soul food brunch, but like dinner time in the day, more than just brunch. Then take a nap, have some champagne.
Nice.
Get ready to pregame before dinner.
Oh my God.
And go to like a fine dining restaurant for dinner, probably Le Bernardin. Because out of all the fine dining restaurants I've been to, as a customer, hands down, that is like the best dining experience I've had in New York. And that's an unbiased, but kind of biased opinion.
Yeah.
Then after that, I would have beers in the kitchen with the staff, because on Saturday nights, the kitchen gets beer. So I would have shift beers in the kitchen with the staff.
Nice.
And then go to an izakaya for a pitcher of beer, couple of grilled skewers, and then go to K-Town, which is Koreatown near Penn Station, which is open till about 4 or 5 a.m., if not 24 hours. I would go there for the table barbecue.
Oh.
And banchan at about 3, 4 a.m. And then you can punch my ticket after that. I'm done.
Yo, she's thought about this shit before, son. She has thought about
I definitely have.
She has this mapped out like Love Boat style. Like,
yeah.
We don't need a cruise director here. She's got it on lock. That's Jesus Christ. That is honestly 111 episodes. That is the most formulaic planning of one's last day on Earth I have ever heard in my fucking life. That is so good. That is so good. And to wrap it up, last question, simplest question, yet the most complex for some. What is food to you in a single word?
Life.
Love it. Love it. It is. It's every aspect of it. And I mean, as we saw here tonight, from your childhood to present day, like, You've made a life around this. You've made quite the life around this.
I was socially awkward. I had really bad eczema as a kid, so people used to make fun of my skin. I used to wear turtlenecks in the summertime, and I would wear tights under my shorts, thinking nobody noticed.
Yeah.
Because I had such bad scars from the eczema.
Yeah.
And then, just on top of insecurity, being socially awkward, and in the restaurant was where nobody cared about that stuff. It was just a safe space. So to me, that was where I got my lifeline.
It's the last bastion, actually, as Beth lovingly refers to it as, and I'll actually send you a link to a tribute piece that I did. It's the pirate ship. No one gives a fuck where you came from, what you did, what you're there for. It just matters if you're on deck and ready to go. And that's, again, what a beautiful life you've built around it. And I couldn't be more grateful for you joining us this evening and just providing what has been just such a gratifying, satisfying, interview talk and insight into one of my favorite chef testants ever. So thank you again so much, Adrienne.
Thank you so much for having me. And I blame my rambling on my glass of wine, or 2 at this point, or 3, whatever it is.
Yeah, just lose count. You're better off that way. Trust me, it's
just
fine.
like you blamed it on the cough syrup.
Exactly. Blame it on the cough syrup.
I blame it on the wine.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 111 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me this evening, Chef Adrienne Cheatham. Be sure to check out her website, first of all, chefadriennecheatham.com, or is it adriennecheatham.com? adriennecheatham.com. Check out everything's there that you need to know. Be sure to check it out. Check out the Sunday Best. Purchase tickets on her site. It's awesome. Be sure to check her out on Instagram, on the Book of Face, all the social angles. Be sure to check her out, man. Super cool influence force in the field that is going to go nowhere but up from here. Our producer, as always this evening, has been the lovely, voluptuous Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out all his artistic, libertarian, and steampunk happenings in the 184301. And next episode is going to be a little bit more of the same. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it.
coffee? Do you like gourmet coffee? Do you like really amazing gourmet coffee that's a total steal and just happens to be based on a culinary podcast? Well, look no further. The Coarse Grind Podcast has teamed up with the Mr. G Coffee Company to create the perfect custom blend. Dark is the logo itself with hints of caramel, sea salt, and dark chocolate. It is luxury in a cup at an incredible price. Be sure to check out their site today, mrgcoffee.com, and order some now.